Africa. This session is about the regulatory update from key cashew producing and processing countries. The opening presentation for this session is by Mr. Jim Fitzpatrick of Ingredient Sourcing Solutions. This session is being moderated by the Executive Director, GIS Ms. Rita Weidinger. The panelists are going to be Dr. Adama Coulibaly, the DG Cotton and Cashew Nut Council, Ivory Coast, Mr. Seth Osei-Akoto, Consultant, the Tree Crops Development Authority, Ghana, and Mr. Ilidio Afonso Bande, General Director, Institute of Nuts of Mozambique, and Mr. Kouami N'Djolosse, Indra, Benin. A N Dara, the President of Cambodia Cashew Federation, would also be joining us on the panel. Please put your hands up as I invite each one of these people on the stage to please take your positions up here. Ladies and gentlemen, the presentation for this session is being done by a gentleman who's a very visible face in the cashew supply chain globally. An award-winning nuts and dried fruit specialist, he has a 3-decade experience with multinationals and his own import business where he has developed a global supply chain for natural ingredients, including his key supply, cashew. Ladies and gentlemen, as he takes up the podium for us, let me tell you that he has a broad range of clients, including processors, governments in Africa and Asia, the UNITC, World Bank, USAID, Pro Cashew, and retailers. And he's the author of more than 25 published studies and a regular contributor to cashew publications. Ladies and gentlemen, let's make some noise for Mr. Jim Fitzpatrick.
Good morning. It's a real pleasure to be with you again. I'm going to talk to you about cashew policy. There's been a real surge in the development of policy and regulatory interest in the cashew sector in recent years. We've seen really throughout the entire global sector development of various sorts, but it has led to an uneven development in policy and regulation across the globe. And you can see on the slide that we have in red countries which we might describe as highly regulated with well-developed policies, and countries in green, the other end of the spectrum, with low levels of regulation and lighter policy interventions. Success is not necessarily linked to having a highly developed regulatory policy. There are countries, you can see them in green, that actually have very low levels of policy intervention but are successful. Nor is high levels of regulation determinant of problems or failure in the sector. So what we see is a very uneven development in regulation and in policy right across the world. When we talk about policy, we generally look at 3 areas: production, processing, and sector organization. In production, we see 3 areas of intervention: extension and yield, generally to increase the volume produced; varietal development, generally to increase the quality and the yield of the cashew trees; and post-harvest handling, crucial in the cashew sector: good drying, good post-harvest management, and good infrastructure. If we take a look at the 3 areas and the countries in which those have been most noticeable, we see that in extension and yield, across the African sector, in India, and notably and more recently in Cambodia. If we look at varietal development, again we see notable cases, for example in Tanzania, in Cote d'Ivoire and other African countries. On the much longer term, in India, and again, more recently, spectacular development in Cambodia. Looking at post-harvest, I think we can probably say that policy and regulatory intervention in post-harvest has been according to need. And in that respect, therefore, we see most of the activity in African countries. Moving to processing, well, those interventions and supports that have been common for many years in India and in Vietnam good market information, access to technology, access to finance, continue to work and have worked spectacularly in Vietnam, for example. But we also see more innovative policies, primarily in African countries. For example, in Côte d'Ivoire, we see direct subsidies for processors. We see retention of raw cashew nut volume, specifically for origin-based processors, and we see export windows developing in some countries. These are generally restrictions on the trade of raw cashew nuts. Do they work? Well, it's pretty clear that the traditional, if we can call them that, interventions have worked very well. The example of Vietnam tells us that. If we look on the more innovative policies, direct subsidies, for example, it's pretty clear that they have worked really well so far. Time will only tell the long-term impact of subsidizing an industry, but for now, it works really well. The other aspects that I mentioned, the export window, the retention of volumes for processors, they're more problematic. And there's no doubt that some have worked and some have not worked. Probably the most neglected aspect of policy and regulation is sector organization, and probably the area where there's most need. We've seen in recent years development of more and more regulatory bodies, particularly again in West Africa. We see talk, but perhaps difficulty in implementation of stakeholder linkages. Primarily, I'm talking there about stakeholder linkage, farmers to processors. R&D is on everyone's agenda. Support for trade associations and farmer organization, these three aspects pretty much on everyone's policy agenda. The problem in the research that we've done is in the implementation of those areas. So let's have a consideration for a moment of some of the challenges. And this is a challenging area. Key challenge, market information. Market information and policymakers' preconceptions have led to difficulties in developing regulation and policy, often leading to unpredictable results. A key problem is unrealistic goal setting and unintended consequences as a result. Now, they partly arise from poor market information and preconceptions, but they also arise from poor levels of stakeholder consultation. And the key thing about poor stakeholder consultation is that it undermines confidence in the sector. It may also undermine trust, particularly in situations where the more powerful actors' opinion appears to be taken more into account by policymakers. All of these factors contribute to what we see as regulatory bodies, often with extensive powers, major projects, but often poorly resourced. And that makes it very difficult to implement policy, particularly in the area of sector organization. So is there a case for harmonization of cashew policy? And certainly if we look at the case for, there's no doubt that harmonization of policy would reduce illegal trade, particularly illegal cross-border trade. It could create a more level playing field for stakeholders, thus improving market access. But the arguments against, for me, are compelling. The scale, quality, location of different crops in different countries mitigates against harmonization of policy. Development stage of a sector. So if we take a well-developed sector like Côte d'Ivoire, for example, and compare that to a sector that's just at the beginning of its journey, like Guinea-Bissau, it's very difficult to see how we can harmonize policies between those countries. And the final factor is, of course, the political agendas in countries differ, political objectives differ, political structures differ. But there are areas for cooperation. And we looked at four areas. Tax, primarily tax on trade, and pricing, primarily farm gate pricing. Research and development, standards, and branding and marketing. And in the research we found that harmonization of trade taxes and farm gate pricing could well reduce illegal trade and improve logistics. The development of the most expensive aspect in all of these factors, research and development, cooperation would improve the level of knowledge and, crucially, reduce the cost of obtaining that knowledge. If we talk about standards, more common standards, and this is probably more applicable in Africa than anywhere else, common standards for kernels and raw cashew nuts would, without doubt, improve market access and perhaps even remove some of the volatility that has been so destructive to the sector. And the final area, branding and marketing. And if we ask ourselves, do we tell the cashew story well? The answer is no. Could we tell it better? We certainly could if we worked together, if governments and sectors worked together to tell the story better. This work is the result of findings for research and development done for the Pro Cashew project in West Africa in cooperation with the African Cashew Alliance. Thank you very much indeed.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Fitzpatrick. And now we hand over this session to our moderator, Ms. Rita Weidinger, and she steers this session ahead from here on.
Thank you very much, Jim. I think we have seen a very clear picture on where we stand with policy developments in various countries. We will hear some examples and we will invite them one by one. I want to invite briefly Emmanuel for just summarizing maybe the last slide on the 4 areas where we can collaborate on policies better. Tu pourras m'aider avec la traduction, juste le dernier point.
Alors, M. Fitzpatrick a parlé de l'harmonisation. Alors, est-ce que la coopération peut marcher? Oui, elle peut marcher parce que, d'abord, si on travaille sur les prix et les taxes, il faudra réduire les inégalités dans le négoce. Il faut améliorer la logistique. En ce qui concerne les exploitations de taxes et la fixation du prix minimum hors champ, il faut une harmonisation dans ce cadre. Aussi, il faut une harmonisation dans la recherche et le développement pour améliorer la connaissance et réduire les coûts. Cela peut être fait par l'information du marché, la recherche des différentes variétés et la dissémination des bonnes pratiques agricoles. Il faut aussi l'harmonisation des standards pour améliorer l'accès au marché en ce qui concerne l'amande et bien sûr la noix de cajou, et aussi pour une certaine durabilité. Et aussi où on peut travailler les aires de collaboration sont dans le marketing et le branding, c'est-à-dire l'étiquetage. Alors, pour mieux expliquer l'histoire du cajou. Et cela peut être fait par la promotion directe, comme ce qu'on fait actuellement, c'est-à-dire les expositions et les conférences. Voilà les secteurs où nous pouvons travailler pour que nous soyons tous plus forts ensemble. Donc, grosso modo, c'est la dernière diapositive de M. Fitzpatrick qui a été traduite en français. Merci.
Merci, Emmanuel. And thanks again to Jim Fitzpatrick for a big and global summary on policies. We want to now dive into the core countries. And we do have representatives from Côte d'Ivoire, from Benin, from Ghana, from Mozambique, and Cambodia ici. Here, so we will invite them one by one, and at the end we will have them all on stage for questioning and discussion. So I want to invite first Dr. Adama Coulibaly, who has since the last decade pursued a strong vision in Côte d'Ivoire. So if we see in the last 5 years a processing capacity tripled in Côte d'Ivoire, we have the man who can tell us why it is so, pourquoi on est où on est en Côte d'Ivoire, Dr Adama Coulibaly, directeur général des conseils coton et anacarde sur stage. Avec plaisir de vous avoir ici, Dr Coulibaly. On vous écoute vos leçons. Je vais traduire après un petit sommaire à moi-même avec indulgence de ceux qui parlent mieux le français que moi, mais on veut manager le temps. Avec plaisir.
Ok, ben, tout le plaisir est pour nous. Merci beaucoup Rita. Je voudrais exprimer notre forte satisfaction d'être ici et notre adhésion, l'adhésion de la Côte d'Ivoire et des acteurs de la Côte d'Ivoire donc à cette conférence qui s'est déjà tenue donc 2 fois à Abidjan, chez nous en Côte d'Ivoire. Et la taille de la délégation ivoirienne indique ce que je suis en train de dire, c'est un indicateur pertinent de ce que nous adhérons à cette conférence. Je voulais demander à la délégation que je remercie de se lever pour qu'on puisse voir. Voilà, tout ça c'est la Côte d'Ivoire. Tout ça c'est la Côte d'Ivoire, voyez-vous. Merci à tous les acteurs, nous sommes très fiers de vous. C'est grâce à vous que ce que je vais dire maintenant prend corps. Alors donc, le modèle qu'on nous a envoyé nous demande donc de parler donc de l'organisation de la filière et puis donc de ses résultats. En termes donc d'organisation, comme vous pouvez le voir, donc nous avons le Conseil du coton et l'anacarde, ensuite c'est le CCA, nous avons les producteurs au nombre de 400 000, nous avons dans le circuit de la commercialisation des acteurs qui utilisent donc les pisteurs. Je vois que mon pointeur n'est pas très visible sur le tableau, je ne sais pas pourquoi. Bon, d'accord, bon, on va faire avec. Alors les acheteurs, c'est eux qui utilisent donc les pisteurs, donc pas des producteurs. Les pisteurs sont au bon champ, au compte des acheteurs. Ensuite, donc, les acheteurs envoient soit aux exportateurs ou aux transformateurs. Et bien sûr, parmi les acheteurs, vous avez des sociétés privées, des sociétés commerciales et vous avez des coopératives. En termes de nombre, nous avons 1300 acheteurs et 187 exportateurs. 30 transformateurs sont actuellement actifs en Côte d'Ivoire. Alors, au niveau des actions, donc, les producteurs, il s'agit donc de les identifier. Et nous sommes donc dans un processus d'identification. Et tous les autres ont besoin d'un agrément du Conseil du coton de l'anacarde pour être donc des acteurs sur le terrain. Si vous n'avez pas d'agrément, vous ne pouvez pas être acheteur, vous ne pouvez pas être transformateur, vous ne pouvez pas être exportateur.
Monsieur le DG, vous me permettez un petit moment. I would just want to translate.
Okay.
Very little translation. You see the actors here, and you have the producers, 400,000 producers, and then traders from the side of the producers, processors. They are 30 in number at the moment, and buyers and cooperatives and exporters. All those on the right side need a licensing from the Cotton and Cashew Council. Merci.
Au niveau donc de la gouvernance, nous avons mis en place depuis 2022 l'organisation interprofessionnelle des acteurs qui comprend 4 familles. Il y a la famille donc des producteurs, la famille des acheteurs, la famille des transformateurs et la famille des exportateurs. Évolution donc de la filière, nous avons résumé ça sur donc en 2016-2022. 2016 nous étions donc à 649 587 tonnes dans nos circuits de commercialisation et en 2022 nous sommes passés à 1 028 172 tonnes. Comme vous pouvez le constater, donc en termes de production, ce sont les chiffres sur les 5 dernières années. Au niveau de la commercialisation, donc, nous avons les producteurs, que je rappelle, 400 000 environ, exportateurs 187, acheteurs, avec, y compris les coopératives, les sociétés commerciales et coopératives, 1380, et une trentaine d'unités de transformation. Au niveau donc de la transformation, 2016, nous étions à 40 000 tonnes. 2022, nous sommes à 224 000 tonnes, avec une capacité installée qui est aussi entre 300 et 350 000 tonnes. Donc pour 2022, 224 000 tonnes ont été installées et de nouvelles unités sont en phase d'ouverture pour cette campagne. Et donc ça nous positionne au troisième rang des pays transformateurs, troisième exportateur mondial d'amandes, premier transformateur africain.
Thank you. I think this deserves a clap. For those who understood the French and the figures, 350,000 metric tons installed capacity for processing, out of which 224,000 were processed already in 2022. So all those who want to go that line, here's the secret.
Alors, nous sommes au niveau de l'organisation des acteurs, une organisation interprofessionnelle, comme je l'ai dit, qui a été créée en 2022 pour améliorer la gouvernance de la filière. Une organisation des pépiniéristes, la recherche a trouvé donc des variétés peu productives, mais la vulgarisation doit se faire de façon très encadrée. Une plateforme d'équipementiers, nous sommes conscients qu'aujourd'hui, toutes nos technologies de transformation viennent des pays asiatiques, notamment de l'Inde et du Vietnam, mais pour les petites réparations, nous ne pouvons pas dépendre totalement de ces pays compte tenu de la distance. D'où pour nous la nécessité d'organiser sur place les équipementiers, et nous en avons quelques-uns de qualité, et donc ceux-là, ils vont donc pouvoir relayer, au moins intervenir, faire les premières interventions sur le terrain pour ne pas que les unités qui tombent en panne pour une seule pièce restent, j'allais dire, inactives pendant 2 semaines, 3 semaines, voire plus. Il y a la mobilisation des instituts de recherche à travers donc le PNRA et donc une organisation des opérateurs professionnels du cajou, qui est une organisation aussi importante parce que nous avons des vieilles plantations qui méritent d'être régénérées, et ça également, pour le faire, nous encadrons la démarche.
Regarding the organization of the actors, there are the interprofessional actors, nursery operators. What is specific here are machinery manufacturers are organized on a local level, and then research and professional bodies. Thank you. Merci.
Oh, il n'y a plus rien. Donc, en termes donc, de commerce, sur les exportations de noix brutes, voilà les 2 destinations principales que nous avons. L'Inde, nous remercions tous les acteurs indiens qui font confiance à la Côte d'Ivoire et qui commercent à la Côte d'Ivoire, et le Vietnam également qui commerce avec la Côte d'Ivoire. Nous sommes extrêmement reconnaissants aux acteurs de ces 2 pays. Grâce à eux, donc, notre production a pu donc augmenter et a trouvé un débouché. Au-delà donc de la noix de cajou, nous maintenant, avec les amandes, avec la transformation qui commence à prendre, nous avons diversifié bien sûr nos partenaires commerciaux, et aujourd'hui le vert c'est l'exportation des noix brutes et le bleu c'est l'exportation des amandes. Comme vous pouvez voir, une fois qu'on a des amandes, on a le monde entier comme client. Donc aujourd'hui, les États-Unis sont accessibles par nos amandes, et pour que cela soit, nous avons donc accompagné les transformateurs dans une démarche de certification au FISMA, qui est donc la certification américaine pour tout aliment qui doit rentrer là-bas. Et au moment où je parle, 9 unités ont déjà eu cette certification, et le processus est en cours pour toutes les autres unités. Aucune unité ne peut transformer en Côte d'Ivoire sans donc adhérer à cette demande de certification.
I think the slide speaks for itself regarding the markets. Raw cashew nuts in green and kernels in blue exports. All the processors have to have their food safety standards for accessing the international markets. Thank you.
Et donc, comme vous pouvez le constater, nous avons aujourd'hui, en 2022, exporté 36 000 tonnes d'amandes dans le monde. Mais nous avons exporté 719 900 tonnes de noix brutes. Notre engagement, je le rappelle à chaque conférence, c'est pour transformer chez nous, mais approvisionner nos clients traditionnels. C'est pour ça, tout en travaillant sur la transformation, nous travaillons sur l'augmentation de la production, pour rassurer tous nos partenaires qu'il y aura toujours des noix brutes en provenance de Côte d'Ivoire pour leurs unités. Alors, pour que la transformation aujourd'hui donc qui commence à devenir importante ne soit pas un feu de paille, nous travaillons sur l'ensemble de l'écosystème de la transformation. Il y a la subvention à l'amont, mais la subvention, nous sommes conscients qu'elle sera limitée dans le temps. Ça, c'est une obligation. On ne peut pas subventionner sur la durée de vie de la filière. Ça, c'est clair. Donc, il faut travailler sur l'ensemble de l'écosystème pour que les unités qui s'installent chez nous soient compétitives et réduisent au fur et à mesure leur gap de compétitivité. C'est pourquoi il est extrêmement stratégique de travailler sur la formation des ressources humaines, et le CITA est un outil qui va dans ce sens. Il y a la valorisation des sous-produits. Aujourd'hui, nous avons une forte demande d'exportation de coques aujourd'hui. Et donc, l'idée, c'est de transformer ces coques-là localement pour que les unités puissent être plus rentables grâce donc à la variété des actions et donc des activités. Et pour faire la démonstration, nous allons construire à partir de cette année un centre de valorisation des coques par le conseil de coton de l'ANACAR pour montrer que c'est une activité rentable et puis éventuellement la céder donc au privé. Nous travaillons également donc sur, comme je dis, la facilitation de l'accès au marché. Nous allons reprendre le salon des technologies de transformation dans la CAR cette année et je vous invite tous à Abidjan du 6 au 8 avril de cette année pour venir au CIETA, donc qui sera donc la 5e édition qui n'a pas pu avoir lieu depuis 2020 à cause donc du Covid. C'est donc l'ensemble de ces actions pour consolider l'environnement. Mais mieux, tout à l'heure, donc, nous allons parler des parcs industriels à travers une petite vidéo et je voudrais donc ne pas prendre plus de temps. Et alors, nous sommes également, nous allons mettre en place un hub logistique à Yamoussoukro. Les études sont très avancées. Nous allons lancer bientôt l'appel d'offres. Et s'il y a des entreprises qui sont intéressées par cet appel d'offres, elles pourront postuler parce que c'est un appel d'offres international. Ce hub logistique, va être vraiment des magasins, une espèce de marché avec tout ce qu'il y a pour donc accompagner, voilà en photo ce que ce sera. Voilà. Et donc les zones agro-industrielles, tout à l'heure, donc il y a un petit film avec la permission des organisateurs. Je voudrais donc vous remercier et passer donc au petit film, s'il vous plaît.
Merci beaucoup, Dr. Coulibaly. Un grand plaisir. Applause for Dr. Coulibaly from the Conseil Coton Ayanaka, Directeur Général. There is a film in English which still explains some of the elements, so I will retain my translation for now. Thank you. Film up. Thank you.
Ouais, le film.
Le film. I have magic hands. If I make like this 3 times, it works normally.
West African country, Côte d'Ivoire, is the world leader in the production of raw cashew nuts. In 2022, Côte d'Ivoire reached a record figure with more than 1 million tons at the end of the marketing year. The cashew nut industry in Côte d'Ivoire in figures is 19 production regions, 400,000 cashew nut producers, 6% average annual production growth rate. Second agricultural export product after cacao. First producer and first exporter of raw nuts worldwide. Third largest cashew nut exporter since 2021. The local processing of cashew nuts, which currently stands at around 20%, is a priority sector that receives strong support from the Ivorian government. Côte d'Ivoire has the ambition to increase the local processing rate to 50% in the short term, to accelerate local processing, the government is implementing various supports for investors in the sector. The Council of Cotton and Cashew is therefore working to set up an ecosystem favorable to processing, including the development of 3 industrial parks exclusively dedicated to cashew processing. Installed in the heart of cashew nut production zones, each park includes facilities to facilitate installation and simplify operation over a total area of 28 hectares with modern equipment. Developed lots that can be modulated on demand, newly paved roads, a sewage treatment plant, a drinking water network, low and medium voltage electricity, fiber optics, wastewater collection system, and stormwater drainage. A weighing station. External and internal parking. Storage warehouses and drying area. A shell collection center and CNSL extraction units. A living center, health centers, banks, restaurants, stores, conference rooms, etc. Administrative and security services, police, fire departments. You want to invest in cashew? Côte d'Ivoire opens its arms to you. The Council of Cotton and Cashew accompanies you.
Grand merci à la Côte d'Ivoire, Dr Coulibaly. Grand merci à vous, à toute votre équipe. Alors, so this is the place to invest, they say. The territory is ready for all investors. They are here to answer your question. With that, I would like to invite our next speaker from the neighboring country, Ghana, Mr. Osei-Akoto, former Director of Crop Service Directorate. He started off a cashew development project in Ghana, and he is now the Chief Advisor for the Tree Crop Development Authority, a new authority. Mr. Akoto, allow me to invite you upstage to present us where you are on your journey of cashew development in Ghana. Big applause for Mr. Osei-Akoto, one of my cashew processors. I have several here. Harinaya was my first, this is my second, and I have many more here, so thank you for teaching me.
Thank you.
Professor Cashew, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. As we have seen from La Côte d'Ivoire, Ghana as a country, we started operationalization of the cashew industry in 2023. That is when a formal request was made by the government of Ghana to African Development Bank to support us to develop cashew. So if you look at the profile of cashew development in Ghana, I can say it's not too long. Although in the records, Ghana used cashew as part of the diversification program and economic recovery program earlier in 1990s. So having said this, I'm going to write at the back of what Jim presented to look at some of the regulatory frameworks that have worked in Ghana, and so share some perspectives with delegates assembled here this morning. Having listened to Jim and the guidelines that were given to us by the moderator, I am going to discuss with you successful policy framework in Ghana. Now, having developed cashew so far, Ghana didn't have a regulatory framework. There were projects from African Development Bank. Then at the end of the project, we had also support from GIZ, programs, interventions, Africa Cashew Initiative, Competitive Cashew Initiative, and then MOVE. And then recently also, we are having USDA and other international donor agencies supporting the cashew programs in Ghana. So because of that, various interventions, we decided as a country to come out with a regulatory framework. And by 2020, we had established Tree Crop Development Authority. And a Tree Crop Development Authority is the body that we have established between the Ghana government, the private sector, and some development partners to come out with regulatory framework to get what we are doing in Ghana. And the mandate of the Tree Crop Development Authority is to regulate and develop the production, processing, trading of cashew among other crops. When I say among other crops, in our establishment of a regulatory framework, we had 5-6 crops that this authority is regulating. Besides cashew, we are also regulating oil palm, we are regulating coconut, shea, mango, and then rubber, in addition to cashew. So far, successful policies that have been implemented include the following. Minimum price setting at farm gate. The traders among us realize that for 2 seasons, last year and this season, as part of a policy, we have come out with a minimum price setting. This year, for example, when we met as a team to look at the farm setting, we came out with a minimum price of not above $1 per kilogram at the farm gate. It's around 0.8 cents to about $1 at farm gate price. That is the minimum that a buyer can offer to our farmers at farm gate. Secondly, if you look at some of the policies that we have implemented, we are also intensifying our research leading to cloner variety development and technical support to farmers. Technical support, you are giving the farmers improved planting materials and also enhancing extension activities. The improving planting materials are giving us a lot of yields that range between an average of 800 kilograms per hectare to about 2 tons per hectare. Ongoing registration of all actors biometrically is another policy that I'm saying that is well executed in the country. Then export quality regulation initiated. Those who were present at African Cashew Alliance meeting in Abuja last year, this became a very topical issue. And as part of that, we have initiated this as a process to ensure that we produce quality nuts for export. Now, areas of support to producing countries that we tend to become competitive. We are recommending that we need to increase productivity levels from an average of 0.6 metric tons per hectare to over 2.5 metric tons per hectare. This we think if you can do this, then we are on the roadmap to become competitive internationally. Then we are also saying that to become competitive as part of the regulatory process, we are recommending removal of some barriers of cross-border trading of raw cashew nuts among producing countries. As you might have read, in producing countries in Africa, we have challenges to cross-border trading as a barrier. And to become competitive as part of the regulatory process, we are saying that if you can remove some of the barriers, it might help us to be competitive among all the producing countries. Similarly, we are saying that no restrictions of available technologies and equipment, especially for processing raw cashew nuts and cashew apples, should be one of the things that you need to look collectively to ensure competitiveness in the cashew industry. Then you are talking about synchronization of different cashew sector policies at the national and the regional levels. If you can do this, it can help us, producing countries, to become competitive. Various countries have different policies, and in the continental level, you have different policies. But if you can harmonize or synchronize, as Jim also alluded to that, it might help us to be competitive. Then collaboration of governments with private sector entities and development partners to create a necessary environment for the industry to grow. This, we are also saying that it can enhance competitiveness within the producing countries that are producing cashew in the continental level. Then you were taught to give advice as part of the moderation, or from the moderator. He said, what can you do to advise some of our countries? And I chose to give advice in Nigeria. I don't know how many Nigerians are here, but this is what I thought you could do within the West Africa zone. What I'm recommending is that in Nigeria, they should invest in research leading to coronavirus development, availability of improved planting materials. That one would ensure raw cashew not all year round processes for processing. 2, resilient to climate change. 3, ensure increase in incomes among value chain actors. The reason for choosing Nigeria is that we have been talking among ourselves as scientists, and we realize that if we can take this trajectory, it might help us to become competitive, and so that is the choice of Nigeria. It's based upon the collaborations, the talking we are having among the two countries. That is why I'm giving this advice as part of the guidelines that were given to us through the moderator. So with this, I think
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Seth Osei-Akoto, for your presentation about the regulation in Ghana. So we allow you to sit down whilst we also take another presentation, and afterwards we invite you to them. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Consultants to the Tree Crop Development Authority. Alors au Ghana, on voit qu'il y a les aspects de la production qu'ils ont pris très sérieusement. Ils ont une productivité moyenne déjà au-delà de 600 kilos, mais leur objectif est aller au-delà de 2000 tonnes par hectare. Et la recherche est prête pour ça, l'appui aux producteurs est prêt. Je leur ai demandé aussi de lier avec d'autres pays, qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire avec d'autres pays. Alors il y a une collaboration avec le Nigeria déjà sur la production par rapport aux synchronisations entre les pays, la vue des idées, de voir l'harmonisation des politiques. Je veux mentionner ici qu'il y a le Conseil international de cajou, qui n'est pas présenté ici pour le moment, mais qui travaille aussi sur l'aspect de harmonisation et synchronisation des politiques. So I also mentioned here that il y a the International Competitive Cashew Council in CICC, who also works on harmonization of policies, and all members of CICC are also here. At this stage, allow me to invite Dr. Ilidio Bande from the Instituto de Amendas from Mozambique, not Institute from Mozambique. It is Mozambique who told us all the story of cashew, and they have maintained their production and processing over all the last 3 decades. The floor is yours, Dr. Bande. Merci.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Rita. Obrigado. Good morning, everybody. I'm not alone here. I would like to present my delegation. Please, delegation, Mozambique delegation. And also private sector from Mozambique. Yes. Thank you very much. Well, I have a small presentation in which I would like to first to give a small contextualization that the Nuts Institute of Mozambique was formerly called the Incashu because it was led only with cashew, but now we are promoting not only cashew but another 3 nuts, not groundnut, but 3 nuts, especially macadamias. Okay, okay. So the map shows you in brown where you can produce cashews, and then green where you can produce macadamias. So as you see, we have a lot of potential in cashew production. So we invite the investor to go to Mozambique. Well, not the cashew industry, but the nut industry was valued more or less in 120 million US dollar in 2022, and we expect to reach 5,000 million US dollar in 2030. As you see, this industry is very important for our country because it employs more than 1.5 million smallholders, and also remains the third commodity in Mozambique economy. In terms of policy farm works, we have some umbrella policy. We have a 5-year program, government policy program, 2020-2024. That is a big umbrella for all policies. Also we have a big umbrella in the strategic plan of the agriculture sector in Mozambique. We call the PEZA, which developed from 2011 to 2020, and we renew to 2030. Also we have a national plan investment for agriculture sector that we developed 2013 to 2017, and we renew to 2026. Also in our particular cashew sector, subsector, we have a law we call cashew law, which is approved in 1999, and now we are in process to renew the law. Actually, it's been approved in the Council of Ministers. Now it's been deposited in the Parliament to be discussed and to be approved. We hope this year can be approved. Also, we have a master plan of cashew, which ends in 2020. And now we are preparing the nuts master plan. As I said, that now our issue is not only cashew, but also another 3 nuts. We hope that the next year we can have the master plan concluded, which will be held in 2024 until 2033. By now we have the regulation, which is regulation in all the cashew value process. I'm referring in promotion, production, commercialization, processing, and also exportation. In this regulation, we have a special attention to the reference price policy. I hear my colleague from Ghana, he told they have the minimum price. We have the reference price, not minimum price. It's a little bit different. And then, about the outcome of our cashew master plan, we see that we have some growth in terms of production. We have growth in seedling, for example, from 3 million seedlings to 6 million. In spraying, because in Mozambique, without spraying, no production. In 2011, for example, we sprayed about 5 million trees. Now we can spray about 9 million. In terms of market, we are 60,000 tons. Now we are more or less 147,000 tons. In terms of quality also, we have some growth. We were in 44 libras. Now, more or less, the average is 46. In terms of processing also, we have some growth. In terms of kernel exportation and also RCN. It means that that policy that I said in the last slide, it have a good results, such I show in these slides. In terms of policies that we have not now regulatory framework review of cashew law, as I said, we expect to be approved by Parliament. We have some innovation in this revision. First, we increase the tax of exportation to 18% to 22%. In fact, we are fixing, because in the last law where it was a level, but now went to fix it in 22%. Also, we have to introduce the tax of Borba kernel in more or less 15%. Some of our processor doesn't agree, but we will discuss. Maybe it can be 5% or 10%. We don't know, but it's there. We can debate. For kernel export is zero tax. For importation of kernel, we introduce also the tax importation, 10 to 20%. Exportation tax for allocation. Okay. The revenue that we have for exportation, we dedicate 70% for the production area, 20% for the industrial area, and also we introduce 10% for improving research. Because we know that the research is very important. For importation of RCN is zero tax, because maybe we can have some crisis in the production, local production. We are allowed to import for not stop the production, the processing industry. And also, authorized to import process. Okay. The next slide. What we can advise to other countries. First, we would like to advise our neighbor, Tanzania. I think that there is Tanzanian here. Please, Tanzanian? Yeah. Okay. Tanzania. We would like to tell you to prioritize processing, because we in Mozambique, we are trying to process. If Tanzania also process, will be a regional process system. We would like that it's good for all of us. Also advise to have to strengthen the cooperation with Mozambique and Tanzania. Focus in investment, co-investment will be good for us. Focus also in investment for research, for development, for processing. Also, we think that it's good to develop a legal framework. We have problem of smuggling in our borders. We know because cross some cashew from Tanzania to Mozambique and cross also from Mozambique to Tanzania. So we have to look to this problem. Also, we think that it's good to engage an international cooperation to attract investment to East Africa. Such we see that is opening in West Africa. They have big projects such as Pro Cashew, Leaf Cashew, and so on, because they are doing it together as West Africa. So we want to be the same in East Africa. And also we have to exchange experience with our brother from Ivory Coast in terms of general business environment, business licensing, trade facilitation, we see in the video, policy framework, and so on. So this is the few words that I give for this conference to be discussed here. Thank you very much.
Muito obrigado.
Merci beaucoup.
Dr. Bande, directeur général de l'Instituto d'Amandas. Thank you very much. Alors, on a vu de Mozambique un cas d'une régulation un peu stable, avec encore des expériences ouvertes envers la transformation. J'ai vu le transformateur ici qui a vérifié vos recommandations avec l'échange de Côte d'Ivoire. Vous êtes assis ensemble. Alors, ceux qui veulent avoir plus de détails sur les différentes taxes, il faudrait approcher Dr. Bande. Thank you very much, Dr. Bande from Mozambique. With this, we go to the next country, Benin, which I met my first cashew tree 25 years ago in Benin, where we ate the apples. The nut was thrown away. Since then, it has become a cashew force. Dr. N'Djolosse from the Cashew Research INRAP in Benin, s'il vous plaît, vous êtes invité à partager l'expérience du Bénin, la République du Bénin, avec plaisir. Cashews are much looked after in the international market, especially India, with their quality and the whiteness. The floor is yours.
Merci. Bonjour à tous. Le Bénin aussi est un pays producteur de l'anacade, un grand pays producteur, et attache de prix à cette conférence, comme le montre également la forte délégation béninoise représentée ici, que je voulais présenter au public. Les Béninois, s'il vous plaît, levez-vous. Les Béninois, s'il vous plaît, levez-vous. Ok, donc le Bénin est aussi représenté. Donc, le Bénin ma présentation va porter sur la politique actuelle en matière de production et de transformation de l'anacade. En termes d'objectifs, le Bénin veut accroître la production de noix. Sa production de noix la fait passer de 200 000 tonnes actuellement à 300 000 tonnes d'ici 2026. Ça, c'est l'objectif que le Bénin s'est fixé. Et en termes de transformation locale, transformation sur place, le Bénin veut transformer au moins 50% de sa production sur place. Et quelles sont les actions que le Bénin mène actuellement pour atteindre ces objectifs. Depuis 2021, il y a eu un programme de réhabilitation des anciennes plantations qui est en cours. Donc, de 2021 à 2023, 250 000 hectares d'anciennes plantations seront réhabilités pour accroître la production nationale. Dans le même temps, il y a la recherche qui travaille sur l'amélioration du matériel végétal de plantation depuis plus d'une dizaine d'années, et la vulgarisation aussi accompagne la diffusion des résultats de recherche sur les bonnes pratiques de production. Actuellement, le Bénin prépare un grand programme de développement des plantations et des grandes cultures qui va démarrer l'année prochaine pour 5 ans. Donc, dans ce programme, le Bénin planifie installer sur les 5 prochaines années 500 000 nouveaux hectares de plantations d'anacardiers. Dans le domaine de la transformation, le Bénin actuellement a une capacité très faible. La capacité de transformation des usines installées actuellement, en 2022, le Bénin a transformé 17 278 000 tonnes contre une capacité installée de 64 800 tonnes. Et beaucoup de travaux, beaucoup d'efforts se mènent actuellement pour accroître ces capacités. Il y a de nouvelles industries qui s'installent pour l'installation, pour accroître la capacité de transformation. Il y a l'État qui est dans une politique actuellement de développer la transformation, et une zone industrielle est créée à Glodjibé. Vous avez son truc s'affiche dans vos sacs. Donc cette zone accorde beaucoup de facilités, beaucoup d'infrastructures pour l'installation des usines de transformation. Donc je profite de cette occasion pour inviter les investisseurs à venir s'installer au Bénin pour profiter de ces facilités et nous accompagner dans notre politique de transformation des noix d'anacarde sur place. Et pour accompagner cette décision, cette politique qui est en cours, le gouvernement a décidé d'arrêter l'exportation de noix brutes à partir de l'année prochaine. Donc, à partir de 2024, le Bénin ne veut plus exporter les noix brutes, mais veut transformer toute sa production sur place et invite les investisseurs à l'accompagner dans cette politique. En termes de commercialisation, le Bénin a pris des mesures, parmi lesquelles on peut citer l'arrêt de la fixation de prix minimum. Au Bénin, pendant longtemps, on a appliqué la politique de fixation de prix minimum d'achat des noix aux producteurs, mais l'expérience a montré que ça va en défaveur des producteurs parce que ce n'est pas bien compris souvent et les commerçants taquinent les producteurs. Donc, par rapport à ça, l'État a décidé de ne plus fixer un prix minimum pour l'achat de cajou. Le marché, ça va se jouer selon les règles du marché. Les producteurs, les commerçants, transformateurs vont s'entendre pour gérer ce prix entre eux. Donc il y a beaucoup, comme je l'ai dit, beaucoup d'infrastructures qui sont en construction et il y a l'instauration d'une autorisation avant d'opérer dans le système. Il faut avoir l'autorisation de produits, l'autorisation de vendre, de faire le commerce, d'achat, l'autorisation d'achat et d'exploitation en toutes choses. Il faut avoir ces autorisations. Il y a le marché aussi qui est régulé suivant les normes définies par l'État. Ok, merci. Voilà l'essentiel de ce que je voulais vous présenter. Merci pour votre attention.
Merci beaucoup, Dr N'Djolosse de INRAP Recherche du Bénin. Nous avons vu grands objectifs, grands plans pour les plantations et transformations. Thank you very much. So we have seen the big plans of Benin for production, 500,000 hectares in their new development plan, and export ban, and all 100% processing in country with their new industrial zone from April 2024. With that, we go to the country which is lesser known here, where we have a lot of different figures on production and processing. We are all curious about Cambodia, and I'm happy to invite Mr. N'Dara from the Cambodian Cashew Federation. He is also a processor, so we will definitely hear a very broad experience. We are all curious. Mr. N'Dara, the floor is yours about the very interesting development of the cashew sector in Cambodia. Big applause for Mr. N'Dara and the Cambodian cashew delegation. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is A N Dara from Cambodia, the Federation. And first of all, I would like to introduce my delegation from Cambodia. We have 2 from production sector and 2 from processing sector. Please. Okay, thank you very much. So I will make a very brief presentation about Cambodia, and so far when we meet all of you, I'm very proud that everybody now know Cambodia, and this is the first time that we are coming to Dubai also for the World Cashew Conference. Hope you will remember Cambodia from now on. Okay, here's just my presentation. My topic today is about the Cambodia potential cashew nut for the processing investment. So I'm standing here on behalf of the Cashew Federation that we call in the short form is CCF. And then the Cashew Federation is playing as a national institution level to form and recognized by the government. In order to intensively work with the public sector, private sector, development partner, association, cooperative, cashew community of Cambodia in the whole value chain. So that is the key role of the Federation. And I just want to brief a little bit about the role of CCF in cashew value chain. So if you can, if you see here, there's the whole value chain of Cambodia that Cashew Federation will work very closely and try to develop the whole value chain of the Cambodia cashew. And the production, we will leave this one for the Cashew Association, but we have like in the 2021, we have around 1 million. So we are competing with the Godawa, I guess, in the future. So maybe we find each other in the future. But Mr. Silot will discuss this more, and we hope we hope that we will be the #1 in the world. So let's see. But we have a very big potential for Cambodian cashew nut because there's a lot of organic cashew nut that we can do, and there's a potential environmental friendly because Cambodia there's well known for the protected area that they protect the forest and wildlife, and there's the cashew nut over there. So we will encourage this activity, for example, like not only the organic but also the environmental friendly and sustainable agriculture. And we also have another unique story, which is we will develop in the future. But unfortunately, we process about 5% of the raw cashew nut. So most of cashew nut exporting to the country around Cambodia for the processing. So this the thing that we need to working. And you should know that about 80% there's a M23 variety that we can produce, the big kernel in the world, so we can get up to WW160. So, but we don't really have the market. I know that in the world they are very popular for WW320. But now Cambodia, we want to introduce it to the world market. So that's what we want to focus on. And we have a lot of market demand from Cambodia, but we don't really have capacity to supply to the market. But now, here we have two standard company, verification standard company. One, Stengtrain processing factory, and another one, Ample processing factory, that we already have the standard certificate, for example, like GMP, HACCP, FSC 22000 in order to supply the standard cashew kernel to the world. And as you can see here, there's the kernel that we produce. So normally, there's for the M23 we can produce WW280 and WW210, and we also have W160, but we don't really have the market. But now we have some market in China also. And another one, sorry that we don't And the problem that the byproduct, we don't really have a facility to do that, so we really invite investors to do that, because there's a lot of cashew shell left behind, so we don't produce anything. But now it's a very good news, because there are the big Japanese company try to invest, not only process the kernel for the market, but they also need to do the byproduct, especially the oil extraction from the cashew shell. So I just want to explain here. So now we just have the cashew nut policy that just established by the government this year. So the policy is mainly to improve all the value chain from the production to the market, and then we aim to increase the processing up to 25% by 2027. That is the key. And then we have the investment law here. So for everyone want to invest for agriculture in Cambodia, there will be 3 to 6 year no tax, zero tax. So you can go and invest at the zero tax. And we are trying to have what we call the logistic center, everything in a map that we cannot see here. So there's a lot of facility that we can have, for example, like a fast train and a good road, and another one we call IPA, Agro Industry Park, that we are developing now. And we have the free trade agreement between China and also the Korea. And the good one is we have a lot of youth labor. So there's a 62% of people the age from 15 to 59. So that we have a lot of good workers. And another thing that we have a lot of in international development partner, that they are put an eye on this sector, and they give not only the grant, but they also give the concessional loan in order to improve the cashew sector. Because rice is number 1 for Cambodia, but cashew is number 2, and everybody open an eye to see the cashew in Cambodia to grow. That's all. Thank you very much for that.
Dara from Cambodia Cashew Federation, CCF. So please learn the new word on the ground, the new kid on the block. And the contester for the #1 cashew producer. So there's the contestation on. I would like to invite all the speakers on stage. Please take a seat here, and I will ask each one of you one lesson you have learned from somebody else. One lesson you have learned from somebody else. Please come up stage, and whilst you walk up here, you think about your one lesson for your country or for cooperation. They can. Alors, une leçon que vous avez appris de toute cette séance par rapport à la collaboration avec d'autres pour votre pays. Et je vais commencer de ma droite avec Dr. Bande. One lesson what you have learned from this session for your country, please. Dr. Bande.
Thank you very much, Madam. I learned from Benin that they are creating an industrial zone in which they have facilities for the processors, and also they are trying to do the abolition of exportation of RCN to extract their local industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mozambique has learned from Benin. I will ask your lessons over lunch afterwards, so prepare your personal one. Mr. Osei-Akoto.
Thank you very much. If anything to go by, I'm taking lessons from Cambodia. Cambodia, yes, like he did indicate, all the meetings that we have had, I have participated. I haven't heard from Cambodia. Now, you can see that in terms of production, they are challenging my co-friend, Dr. Adama Coulibaly. And then besides that, looking at the way they are developing the infrastructure, if you are talking about sector organization, one of the most important things is to develop the infrastructure. And looking at the way they are developing their ports, their roads, and things like that, I think in the near future it will help them to be more competitive. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Ghana has learned from Cambodia. Alors, le Ghana a appris du Cambodge par rapport à leur production. Ils ont été jamais ici dans les conférences, mais ils ont développé tous les aspects, y inclus les infrastructures. Et aujourd'hui, ils sont un grand défi pour le premier prix de Côte d'Ivoire. Dans la production, on va écouter Dr. Coulibaly. Qu'est-ce que vous avez appris dans cette science?
Ben, merci. J'ai appris effectivement, comme mon voisin, que le Cambodge est un grand pays producteur. C'est que dans la littérature et dans les différentes réunions, c'est la première fois qu'ils viennent donc à ce genre de meeting. C'est une information importante, mais dire qu'ils sont premiers producteurs pour le moment, il faut qu'ils soient prudents, parce que nous on est installés. Et on ne va pas laisser la place. Ça, c'est de un. J'ai appris donc du Ghana également le rendement qui est entre 800 kg et 1200 kg. C'est très important pour nous parce que pour le moment, nous sommes autour de 600 kg. Je parle sous donc, le contrôle des acteurs qui sont là. Mais nous avons quand même plus d'1 million d'hectares. 1 400 000 hectares de plantations, parmi lesquels il y a des vieilles plantations. Donc, du coup, notre rendement est autour de 600. Et donc, ça, c'est très intéressant de voir que le voisin ghanéen est autour de entre 800 et 1200. Et enfin, j'ai appris donc de mon frère du Bénin la suppression du prix plancher qui était de rigueur au Bénin et qui a été supprimé. Je veux encore comprendre cette politique, mais je pense que nous aurons l'occasion d'aller B2B, de bien échanger dessus parce que En Côte d'Ivoire, c'est encore en vigueur. Le prix plancher, pour nous, c'est plutôt un élément qui protège le producteur. Or, eux, d'après leur analyse, c'est plutôt au détriment, en défaveur donc, du producteur. Donc, ce sont des échanges que nous allons approfondir pour voir si effectivement nous devons aller dans la même direction. Mais pour le moment, nous sommes pour le prix plancher. Donc, voilà un peu les 3 enseignements que j'ai pu retenir. Merci beaucoup.
Merci, Dr. Coulibaly. So the lesson was they have attentively listened to Cambodia. They are also preparing to remain on the first place, and therefore they want to learn from Ghana how they went to the high yields of 800 to 1.2 tons per hectare. And they also have learned and listened attentively to Mozambique how to do away with the minimum price and the price regulation, and they want to exchange further on that. Thank you very much, Dr. Coulibaly. With that one, I would like to jump to the other side where we all have listened attentively. Mr. N'Dara from Cambodia, what have you learned the first time here at the World Cashew Convention?
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, I learn a lot, but I would like to brief something that we learn and try to take this knowledge to apply in my country. One thing we learn about from Mr. Jim Fitzpatrick about the view of the cashew, that what we should do in the future for the world. Then one thing. And another thing, I'm not quite sure about the country, but I learned from African country that one thing they have a very fast technology that they can improve the processing facility up to 30% within 5 years, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. So it is the way that Cambodia need to learn from you and try to apply. Now our processing is very less. So we are thinking that so in the next 5 years, we are planning to increase at least 25%, not only to process the canal for the global market, but we are thinking if we increase like that, then we can have the facility to also process the byproduct. That is one thing. And another thing is about the price competitive. So now for the big kernel, it's very hard to find the market because the world now, they don't really want to offer the premium price. To be honest with you, in the world, they like a very high standard, but they don't really want to pay the high standard, you know, they pay the lowest price. That is the key. And we are thinking, because we also have the small variety, which is we produce like a WW320, which is we are thinking that how we can learn from African country to minimize production costs in order to compete with the world market. That is what we learn from. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Cambodia has learned a lot first time here. Alors, ils ont appris sur l'enjeu politique à différents niveaux. Et ils regardent aussi les aspects de accroître la transformation de leur pays et comment faire le marché pour leurs grands noix dont le prix n'est pas compétitif pour le moment. Merci. Docteur N'Djolosse du Bénin, qu'est-ce que vous avez appris sur cette panel?
Merci. J'ai appris beaucoup de choses durant les présentations qui se sont passées. Principalement dans la présentation de la Côte d'Ivoire, j'ai appris 2 points importants. Le premier, c'est l'organisation du secteur. Et il y a beaucoup de choses qui sont faites en Côte d'Ivoire dans l'organisation du secteur qui sont intéressantes pour moi et que je pense que le Bénin doit s'appuyer sur ça, pour ce modèle pour avancer. Deuxièmement, c'est également la transformation, la fabrication des équipements de transformation au niveau local. Ça aussi, c'est une bonne chose et je pense que le Bénin aussi doit prendre ce modèle parce que comme nous envisageons développer la transformation sur place, actuellement, le grand problème des transformateurs, comme il l'a dit, c'est le problème des pièces de rechange, des machines qu'on importe de l'Asie. Donc, quand il y a des problèmes, on a des difficultés à remplacer ces pièces. Donc, si nous développons, comme la Côte d'Ivoire, des industries de fabrication sur place, d'équipements, des pièces de rechange, on pourra pallier à cette difficulté. Et enfin, au niveau du Ghana, le rendement aussi de leur variété, le rendement actuel, ça m'a sidéré. Le Bénin aussi est dans la voie, mais nous n'avons pas encore atteint des rendements aussi élevés et nous allons leur emboîter les pas. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup, le Bénin. They have learned about the organizational aspect from Côte d'Ivoire. They have learned about the equipment, processing equipment locally looked at and maintained, and the high yields in Ghana. Merci. So our introducing panelist, Jim Fitzpatrick, what have you learned, newly heard, to review your earlier presentation?
Well, I think I've learned that perhaps our regulators and policymakers are more dynamic and more courageous than perhaps we sometimes give them credit for. So congratulations to them all.
Can we applaud them for our courageous policymakers?
I think I've also learned that if they are successful, particularly in the production initiatives, that we have one hell of a marketing job on our hands over the next 10 years.
So if we reach all the production levels which we envisage, the marketing challenge is to all those here. That one will be the next challenge. Alors, si jamais on arrive à produire tout ce qu'on envisage, ici sur le panel seulement, on aura un grand défi sur le marketing. Thank you very much, Jim. Merci à tous les panélistes. I have learned that you are a marvelous public and that you have a lot of ideas which you will exchange afterwards with the panelists. In view of the time, I would invite us to close now and thank our panelists. Back to the moderator.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. First and foremost, can we give a huge round of applause to our lovely panelists and a bigger round of applause matching the energy level of Miss Rita Weidinger as she moderated this session seamlessly, shuttle between the languages. That was so amazing to watch, ma'am. One final request of you as the moderator of the session. May I please invite you to present a memento to each one of our speakers this morning, and we'd like to start with presenting a memento to our first speaker, Mr. Jim Fitzpatrick. And this is a special announcement for all our guests in the house. Please be here with us. We've got a very, very special announcement coming up right after these presentations. You won't want to miss that, I promise you. So moving on, ladies and gentlemen, a big thank you to Dr. Adama Coulibaly for his presentation, his presence on the stage with us. Thank you to Mr. Seth Osei-Akoto. Thank you so much, sir. A big thank you to Mr. Ilidio Bande. Thank you, Mr. Kouami N'Djolosse, for your time on the stage and podium with us, sir. A big honor to have you here. And of course, finally, a big thank you to Mr. A N Dara. And of course, goes without saying, it's time for me to invite Mrs. Srivatsava Ganpati to present a memento to Miss Rita Weidinger for moderating this session for us. So beautifully and so succinctly. Can I request all the panelists to kindly stand up, pose for a group picture? Ladies and gentlemen, while each one of our speakers this morning in this session was very eloquent and made some very, very valid and pertinent points, I must say that two countries that totally stood out with the future prospects and what cashew as a commodity has to offer, well, the two destinations that stood out were Benin and Cambodia. Can we give them a huge round of applause, please?